All right, so we're diving into this whole not giving a fuck thing today.
Yeah.
Um, and it seems like a lot of people are really resonating with this idea.
Yeah, it's definitely provocative.
Yeah. And, we've got your notes here. We've got some articles, even some excerpts from The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck Itself by Mark Manson.
Okay.
So are you ready to untack all this?
Absolutely. I think, the title is obviously what grabs people's attention,
Right.
but there's a lot more to it than just that.
Yeah, it's not about just like being apathetic or nihilistic or anything like that.
Exactly.
This is about figuring out, like, what does he really mean
Yeah.
when he says this?
It's about being intentional with your fucks.
Okay.
It's about choosing where your energy goes,
Okay, that makes sense.
deciding what actually deserves your attention and your effort.
Okay, so how do we do that?
Well, one of the first things
Yeah.
that he talks about is this concept of the backwards law.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking at your notes here, and it's almost like not giving a fuck in reverse.
Yes, exactly.
How does that work?
So the idea is that pursuing the negative, in a sense,
Okay.
embracing discomfort can lead to positive outcomes.
So like feeling the burn at the gym leads to better physical health.
Exactly. And it goes beyond that even.
Okay.
It goes into our emotional well-being, our mental well-being.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, like if we avoid discomfort all the time,
Yeah.
we never actually learn resilience.
Yeah.
We never grow.
Whoa, that's pretty mind-blowing.
And speaking of mind-blowing,
Yeah.
we explore this kind of stuff on our YouTube channel too.
Oh, yeah,
We
absolutely.
go even deeper into these ideas.
So if you're enjoying this deep dive and you want to learn even more,
Uh-huh.
make sure you hit that subscribe button.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so back to discomfort.
Okay.
Manson also has this thing called the disappointment panda,
Yeah.
which is hilarious,
Very catchy.
but also kind of deep.
Yeah. So the disappointment panda.
Yeah, is he saying that we need to suffer?
In a way, yes. He's saying that suffering is biologically ingrained in us.
Okay.
And it's actually the catalyst for change.
So like back in the day when we were, out in the wild,
Right.
discomfort meant like there was something wrong.
Danger.
Yeah, we needed to run away or something.
Exactly.
But now
Uncomfortable.
we're just like sitting in our houses.
Right. We have all these comforts and conveniences.
Yeah.
And so we're not getting that push
Okay.
that we need to grow and evolve.
So it's not about seeking out pain,
No.
but it's about recognizing that avoiding all the discomfort
Yes.
is actually like stunting our growth.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm starting to see the subtle art here.
Good.
Okay, so then you have this other note here. It says Manson doesn't buy the whole self-esteem hype.
Right.
He thinks it can be harmful.
Yeah. So he makes a distinction between feeling good
Okay.
and genuine self-worth.
Okay.
He says that blind positivity,
Okay.
like we see in the Jimmy example.
Oh, yeah. Remind me about Jimmy.
Jimmy was this entrepreneur who was totally delusional,
Okay.
convinced of his own awesomeness despite constant failures.
Oh, yeah.
And so his inflated self-esteem actually prevented him
Right.
from facing the reality of his situation
Wow.
and making necessary changes.
So it's like he was not giving a fuck about his shortcomings,
Yes.
but in like a bad way.
Exactly.
Okay.
So Manson's saying that true self-worth
Yeah.
comes from acknowledging our weaknesses,
Right.
learning from our mistakes,
Okay.
and constantly striving to improve.
So it's like an ongoing process.
Yes, it's a journey.
Not a destination.
Exactly.
Okay. And then this reminds me of another point you have here, the tyranny of exceptionalism.
Yes, this is where Manson gets into the dangers of comparing ourselves to others,
Right. Especially in the age of social media.
especially online.
Yeah, where everyone is,
Everyone's curating their perfect life.
yeah, it's like a highlight reel.
Exactly.
And so we're constantly bombarded with images of like extraordinary lives.
Right.
And it makes us feel inadequate.
Ab-
Like we're not doing enough or we're not good enough.
We're not special enough.
Yeah.
And so this constant pressure to be special can actually prevent us
From what?
from focusing on genuine growth and improvement.
So how do we break free from this tyranny?
Well, Manson uses a really fascinating story
Yeah.
of Lieutenant Onoda.
Okay, who's that?
He was a Japanese soldier
Okay.
who hid in the jungle for nearly 30 years
What?
after World War II ended, refusing to believe that Japan had surrendered.
So he was living in the jungle for decades.
Yes.
Thinking the war was still going on.
He believed that all evidence to the contrary
Wow.
was enemy propaganda.
That's wild.
It wasn't until 1974
Wow.
that his former commanding officer personally went to the Philippines
Okay.
and relieved him of duty.
That's incredible, but also kind of sad in a way.
Right. He missed out on so much of life
Yeah.
because he was clinging to this outdated belief.
Right.
So it highlights the danger of becoming too attached to our beliefs and the importance of being open to new information.
Wow, so how do we apply that in our own lives?
Well, I think it starts with self-awareness,
Okay,
and that's where Manson's idea of the self-awareness onion comes in.
the self-awareness onion.
Okay, yeah, so imagine an onion.
Okay.
The outermost layer represents our surface-level emotions and reactions.
Okay.
But as we peel back the layers,
Uh-huh.
we get to the deeper why's the
Right.
values and beliefs that are driving those reactions.
So, like, if I'm feeling annoyed that my friend didn't respond to my text,
Right.
I need to ask myself, like, why does this bother me so much?
Exactly. And you might realize
Yeah.
that it stems from a deeper insecurity
Oh, wow.
about the friendship
Right.
or a need for validation.
Wow, that's actually really helpful.
It's a tool for understanding ourselves better.
And hey, if you're finding this self-awareness onion helpful and you want more tools and tips
Uh-huh.
for like leveling up your life,
Yes.
make sure you check out our YouTube channel. We have even more content over there.
Yes. Subscribe.
Hit that subscribe button, all right? So
Yeah.
understanding ourselves is one thing,
Right.
but then there's the question of what do we do with that knowledge?
Exactly.
And Manson argues that we can't avoid problems altogether,
Life is full of problems. It's full of
Mhm.
challenges.
but we can choose our struggles?
Yes.
Okay, so you're saying that we have a choice in what we suffer for.
Absolutely. We have limited time. We have
Mhm.
limited energy.
Yeah.
So the question is, do we want to waste those resources
Okay.
on things that don't truly matter to us?
Right.
Or do we want to focus our efforts
Okay.
on the struggles that are aligned with our values and goals?
Okay, that makes sense. But how do we actually choose our struggles?
That's the real question.
Right. It's not like we can just snap our fingers
Exactly.
and make all the bad stuff disappear.
It's about recognizing that
Yeah.
any worthwhile pursuit
Uh-huh.
will inevitably involve challenges and discomfort. It's about accepting those challenges
Yeah.
as part of the process
Yeah.
and choosing to focus on the struggles that are worth enduring.
Okay. I'm starting to see the bigger picture here.
Good.
But how do we know which cheat struggles are worth it?
That's the key.
And how do we deal with all the other stuff?
Yeah.
Like the problems that we can't just choose away.
That's where the real art of not giving a fuck comes in.
Okay.
And that's what we'll explore in part 2 of this deep dive. So how do we deal with those problems? We can't just choose away.
Right. Like how do we figure out which ones are worth our energy?
It comes back to those values.
Okay.
Understanding what's truly important to us.
Yeah. So once we know our values,
Mm-hmm.
how do we use that to choose our struggles?
Well, think of your values like a compass,
Okay.
guiding you toward the things that really matter.
Okay.
So when a problem pops up, you ask yourself, does this align with my values?
All right.
If it does, it might be a struggle worth embracing.
So for me, if personal growth is a core value
Mm-hmm.
and a tough new job comes along,
Yeah.
one that really pushes me outside my comfort zone,
Right.
that might be a struggle worth taking on.
Exactly, even with the stress and the uncertainty.
Yeah, okay. But what about problems that don't directly align with my values?
Right.
Like things I feel obligated to deal with,
Mm.
family stuff, or work commitments.
That's where boundaries come in.
Okay.
It's about protecting your time, your energy, your
Your-
well-being.
But saying no is hard,
Oh, I know it is.
especially to people we care about.
I hear you.
We don't want to disappoint them or hurt their feelings.
Manson talks about this a lot.
Yeah.
He says so much of our unhappiness comes from this fear of rejection
Okay.
and this need to please others,
Even if it hurts us.
even at the expense of our own well-being.
So we end up saying yes to things we don't want to do.
Yeah, taking on too much,
Yeah.
sacrificing our needs just to avoid conflict.
Or disapproval.
Exactly.
So we're trying to avoid rejection, but we're actually rejecting ourselves.
That's it.
Right.
So Manson says we need to shift our focus.
Okay.
Not about avoiding rejection, but embracing it
As a part of life?
as a part of life, yeah.
Okay.
He says the more we try to please everyone,
Yeah.
the more likely we are to attract people who take advantage
Oh, wow.
of that generosity, of those
Yeah.
blurred boundaries.
So it's like we're teaching people how to treat us
Exactly.
by the boundaries we set or don't set.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do we start setting those healthy boundaries?
You start by recognizing your own needs and limits.
Okay.
What drains your energy?
Yeah.
What situations always leave you feeling resentful,
Okay.
overwhelmed?
Okay, so once I identify those patterns.
Yeah. Then you can start setting boundaries
Okay.
to protect yourself.
So like if I realize spending time with a certain friend
Mm-hmm.
always leaves me drained.
Yeah.
Maybe they complain a lot or dump their problems on me.
Right.
Maybe I need to see that friend less often.
Yeah, set some limits.
Or maybe I need to limit how much I listen to them vent.
Exactly. And it's not about being selfish
Gotcha.
or cutting people out. It's about creating healthy relationships.
Right, ones that benefit both people.
Mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
It's about communicating your needs clearly, respectfully,
Okay.
and being willing to walk away from situations that aren't serving you.
Okay, but I imagine setting those boundaries can be really uncomfortable,
Absolutely. It can be tough,
especially at first.
especially at first, but Manson says we need to embrace that discomfort.
It's part of the process.
Remember the backwards law?
Right.
Growth comes from leaning into the things that make us uncomfortable.
Okay, so instead of avoiding those difficult conversations, we need to face them head on
Yes,
and trust that it'll lead to a more fulfilling life.
exactly. And sometimes those boundaries can even strengthen our relationships.
Right.
When we communicate honestly, respectfully,
Right.
it can lead to deeper understanding, more authentic connection.
That's encouraging.
It is. It's about being true to yourself.
So choosing our struggles is about aligning our actions with our values, setting boundaries to protect our energy and well-being,
Yes.
embracing the discomfort that comes with growth
Exactly.
and change.
It's all connected.
Okay, but it's not just external things,
Right.
like jobs and relationships.
It applies to our inner world, too.
Oh, that's interesting.
Our thoughts, our beliefs, our emotions.
So how do we apply this idea of choosing our struggles to our inner world?
That's where the self-awareness onion comes in again.
Okay.
It's about peeling back the layers
Yeah.
to understand those deeper beliefs.
So if I'm constantly battling negative thoughts
Right.
or self-doubt, I need to ask myself, why am I thinking this way?
Yes. What beliefs are fueling these thoughts?
Okay, and then I can start to challenge them,
Exactly.
replace them with more empowering ones.
That's the idea.
So we can choose to struggle against those limiting beliefs
Yes.
and cultivate a more positive and resilient mindset.
That's what it's all about.
But that sounds like a lot of work.
It can be.
How do we stay motivated?
Well, Manson talks about his do something principle. He says action often creates motivation.
Wait, so instead of waiting for motivation to strike, we should just start taking action,
Exactly.
even if we don't feel like it.
Even if you don't feel like
So
it.
if I'm procrastinating,
Yeah.
I shouldn't wait for the perfect moment
Right.
or inspiration to strike.
Just start.
I should just sit down and start working.
Even for 5 minutes.
Okay.
Just take that first step.
So it's like tricking our brains
Yeah.
into becoming more motivated
Exactly.
by starting.
By taking action.
Okay.
And the more we act in alignment with our values,
Yeah.
the more confident and motivated we become.
So choosing our struggles, setting boundaries, doing the inner work, it all sounds great in theory.
It does.
But how does it all connect back to not giving a fuck?
It's about being intentional,
Okay.
selective with our energy and attention, focusing on what truly matters to us,
Okay.
letting go of the rest.
So it's about choosing our values, our struggles, our commitments.
Yes.
And by doing that,
We free ourselves
right.
from that constant pressure to please everyone,
Right.
to achieve everything, to be everything to everyone.
That's a powerful realization.
It is.
So not giving a fuck isn't about apathy or nihilism.
No.
It's about becoming more discerning and intentional
Exactly.
with our energy and attention.
It's about making conscious choices
Okay.
and committing to those choices.
Okay. I'm intrigued. How can commitment be liberating?
Good question.
It seems like it would restrict our freedom, not enhance it.
It seems that way, but think about it.
Okay.
When we're always chasing the next best thing,
Yeah. New experiences, new possessions.
new relationships,
Yeah.
we're actually tethered to this endless cycle
Of what?
of desire and dissatisfaction.
It's like we're always searching for the next thing that will make us happy, but that happiness never lasts.
Because we're already on to the next thing.
Right.
That's the cycle.
Okay, so this constant chasing can actually prevent us from experiencing real fulfillment.
Yes. The kind that comes from truly committing to something.
Okay, so how do we break free from that cycle of chasing?
It starts with recognizing that true freedom
Yeah.
isn't about having unlimited options.
Okay.
It's about making conscious choices.
Right.
And investing our energy in the things that align with our values.
So choosing quality over quantity.
Exactly, depth over breadth.
Okay.
Manson uses the analogy of a traveler
Okay.
exploring a new city.
All right.
Imagine two travelers.
Okay.
One tries to cram in as many sites as possible.
Right. Rushing from one place to the next.
Exactly, not really taking anything in.
Okay.
And the other chooses a few places that truly interest them
Okay.
and spends their time exploring those places deeply,
Right.
savoring the experience, connecting with the local culture.
I think I know who's going to have a more fulfilling trip.
Right, and it's the same with our lives. When we try to do it all, be it all,
Yeah.
we end up feeling scattered, unfulfilled.
Okay.
But when we choose a few things that truly matter
Yeah.
and commit to them wholeheartedly,
Uh-huh.
we create space for depth,
Okay.
for meaning, for lasting satisfaction.
So how do we know what to commit to?
That's the question.
And how do we deal with the fear of missing out?
Manson acknowledges it's challenging.
Yeah.
It requires us to really get clear on our values,
Okay.
to face our fears,
Right.
and to accept that any choice will involve some sacrifice.
So weighing the potential rewards of commitment
Yes,
against the risks of missing out.
exactly.
Right.
And remember, nothing is permanent.
Wow.
We can always revisit our choices,
Yeah.
make adjustments along the way.
Okay.
The key is to make those choices consciously,
Right. With intention.
not just being swept along by expectations or fear.
This reminds me of Manson's story about traveling the world in his 20s,
Oh, yes.
living the dream, having all these amazing experiences.
Yeah. But he realized it wasn't bringing him lasting fulfillment. That constant pursuit of new experiences was actually preventing him from forming deep connections and developing a sense of purpose.
So he decided to settle down,
Yeah.
focus on his writing,
Commit to a relationship.
and he found a deeper level of happiness and fulfillment
That's what he says.
than he'd ever felt before.
And this idea of choosing our commitments,
Yeah.
it's closely tied to choosing our struggles.
Right, because any worthwhile endeavor will involve challenges,
Of course.
setbacks, discomfort.
Manson says those struggles,
Yeah.
they define us.
Okay.
They shape our character.
So it's not about avoiding challenges altogether.
No.
It's about choosing the ones aligned with our values.
The ones that will lead to a more fulfilling life.
Okay.
And often those challenges involve facing our fears.
Which brings us back to that cliff-hanging story in Ireland.
Oh, yes.
He literally chose to hang off a cliff.
To confront his fear of death. To
That-
feel truly alive.
It's about embracing discomfort and uncertainty,
To find meaning and purpose.
and to live fully even in the face of our fears.
That's the idea.
And that's ultimately what Manson is encouraging us to do.
Yes.
He's giving us permission to let go.
To let go of the need to be perfect.
Right, to please everyone.
To achieve some arbitrary definition of success.
He's reminding us that we're already enough.
Simply by being alive.
Yeah.
By having the capacity to choose.
So to wrap up this deep dive into the subtle art of not giving a fuck
It's about being intentional and selective.
with our energy,
Our attention.
focusing on what truly matters,
Letting go of what doesn't.
choosing quality over quantity,
Depth over breadth.
and embracing the freedom
That comes with making conscious choices.
and committing to those choices.
Wholeheartedly.
It's about defining what a life worth living looks like to you.
And not giving a fuck about anything that distracts you from that.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. So we talked about this idea of the freedom of commitment. How can committing to something actually make us feel more free?
Well, you see, when we're always chasing after new experiences, new possessions, new relationships, it's like we're tethered to this constant,
Cycle
this cycle of desire.
and dissatisfaction
Right. And it keeps us from actually
with
experiencing,
real fulfillment.
yes, the kind that comes from really committing to something.
Okay. So how do we break free from that cycle?
Well, it's about recognizing that true freedom, it's not about having unlimited options.
Okay.
It's about making choices.
Conscious choices.
Yeah, and putting our energy into things that really resonate with our values.
So it's about quality over quantity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Depth over breadth.
Okay.
Manson has this analogy of a traveler exploring a city.
Okay.
Imagine two travelers.
Okay.
One's trying to cram in every single site
Right. Rushing from one place to the next.
without really absorbing anything.
Yeah. Okay.
And the other traveler picks a few places that truly interest them. And they spend their time really getting to know those places,
Right.
connecting with the local culture.
I think I know who's going to have a better time.
Right. And it's the same with life.
Oh,
When we
no.
try to do it all, be it all,
We get spread too thin.
yeah, we end up feeling scattered and unfulfilled.
But when we choose a few things that really matter.
Right. And commit to them, that's where we find depth
Meaning.
and lasting satisfaction.
Okay. So how do we know what to commit to?
That's the tough part.
And how do we deal with FOMO? That fear of missing out.
Manson says it's a process.
Yeah.
We have to get clear on our values.
Okay.
Face our fears.
Yeah.
And accept that any choice means giving something else up.
So weighing those potential rewards against the risks of missing out.
Exactly. And remember, nothing's set in stone.
Right.
We can always adjust our course.
Okay.
The key is to make those choices intentionally.
Okay.
Not just be swept along by expectations or fear.
This reminds me of Manson's story about traveling the world in his 20s.
Oh, yeah, he was living the dream.
Right, all these amazing experiences.
But
it wasn't fulfilling.
no, he realized that constant pursuit of new experiences was actually stopping him from forming those deep connections.
Right.
Finding a real sense of purpose.
So he made a choice.
Yeah, he settled down.
Focused on his writing.
Committed to a relationship.
And found that deeper happiness.
That's what he said.
That he'd been searching for.
And choosing our commitments goes hand in hand with choosing our struggles.
Right, because anything worthwhile.
It's going to have challenges.
Setbacks.
Discomfort. It's inevitable.
Manson says those struggles shape us.
Yeah, they define us.
So it's not about avoiding the hard stuff.
No, it's about choosing the right hard stuff.
The stuff that aligns with our values.
The stuff that leads to a fulfilling life.
And that often means confronting our fears.
Head on.
Which brings us back to that cliff-hanging story.
Yes.
Hanging off a cliff in Ireland.
To face his fear of death.
Wow.
To really feel alive.
It's about leaning into discomfort and uncertainty.
To find meaning and purpose.
To live fully even when we're scared.
That's the heart of it.
And that's what Manson is really getting at.
It's about giving ourselves permission.
To let go of a need to be perfect.
To please everyone.
To achieve some external definition of success.
We're already enough.
Just by being here.
By having the ability to choose.
This has been a really thought-provoking deep dive.
It really makes you think.
Into the subtle art of not giving a fuck.
It's about choosing what matters.
And letting go of the rest.
Defining your own version of a life worth living.
And not giving a fuck about anything that distracts you from that.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you in the next deep dive.